We are lucky to have Dr. Shirley Ho flew in yesterday from Singapore, where she is assistant chair of the Wee Kim Wee School of Communications and Information at Nanyang Technological University. Thank you so much, Shirley. We're looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the research that you have done on public perception of nuclear energy.
Right. Thank you, Ryan. This is me, Shirley Ho. I flew in all the way from Singapore yesterday, and hopefully, I can keep myself awake throughout my presentation. It's really interesting to see and hear about the different perspectives from the earlier speakers. Some of them talk about the risk of nuclear energy, but also talk about how other renewable energies might be a possibility above and beyond nuclear. Now, I'd like to add to what they have talked about today by providing a different facet of nuclear energy, which is to talk about public perception of nuclear energy and how different factors may shape public attitudes toward this controversial science. Well, as you have seen from earlier presentations, nuclear energy is actually a very controversial science that polarizes public opinion. Proponents of nuclear energy have stated that, stated the key benefits of it, which is low carbon emissions, which in this case could be helpful to eliminate, to mitigate the effect of climate change. The other key arguments that proponents put forward is secure energy supply, in that nuclear energy could provide a reliable source of energy for the people. On the other hand, critics have also argued the risk of nuclear energy, including the proliferation of nuclear weapons, the high capital investment cost, and the potential nuclear waste contamination. Now, the recent major nuclear accident in Japan has created many oppositions because, for example, in Japan, you've seen massive protests right after the nuclear accident in Fukushima. And in Taiwan as well, you see huge protests, as well as Germany. Now, these protests are amplified and widely covered in the mass media as well as social media. So the key question is, what actually shapes public perception of nuclear energy, since the public don't really get to see a nuclear power plant, immediately in their backyard? What they see is usually media coverage of it. Now, a lot of scientists and policymakers alike actually thinks that pumping in more information would probably increase public knowledge of nuclear energy, and perhaps that might enhance their acceptance of the technology. However, this view seems a little simplistic because already in social science we have seen empirical studies that have shown that value predispositions, such as people's individual political beliefs and risk perceptions and benefits perception, actually could have an impact on public perception of nuclear energy. So the real question is, besides knowledge, what other factors such as trust, benefit perception, risk perception, and media messages could impact and shape public acceptance of nuclear energy? And how big are these effect sizes? What are, when it comes to science knowledge as compared to these value predispositions, which are the factors that shape public attitudes toward nuclear energy more than the others? And what are the key effect sizes of each of these factors? So my team at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore recently conducted a meta-analysis of empirical studies that were conducted, empirical public opinion studies that were conducted from 1996 all the way to 2016. And we looked at how these different factors impact public perception of the benefits, public perception of risk, as well as public acceptance of nuclear energy. We analyzed 34 empirical studies across the globe, both before and after the Fukushima nuclear accident. Here's some key results from our study. So basically, if you look at what impact public benefit perception of nuclear energy, you can see that knowledge actually has a very small impact on public opinion. Rather, trust, which is highlighted in yellow over here, actually has a larger impact on public benefit perception of nuclear energy in this case. When you look at risk perception of nuclear energy, you can see that a large impact comes from the cost, let me see, what is this? Trust, okay, negative 0.52. The more trust you have, the less perceived risk when it comes to nuclear energy. And also when it comes to gender, you see that males actually have females actually have a higher risk perception as compared to males. Now, when it comes to public acceptance of nuclear energy, the graph really shows here that benefit perception, if the more people believe that there are benefits of nuclear energy, then of course it will highlight in yellow over here. Let me see. It doesn't really show up well here. The yellow over here, 0.48, refers to benefit perception. And the negative ones really refer to cost perception. And if you look across the board, gender, and I guess this is trust and as well as risk perception plays a large role in public perception, public acceptance of nuclear energy as well. Now, we also ran moderator analysis to look at how different countries, public in different countries perceive nuclear energy. And our result shows that trust actually moderated, country actually moderated the impact of trust on benefit perception, public risk perception, as well as public acceptance. So as you can see over here, when it comes to benefit perception, the public in Europe actually, the effect of trust has a larger impact on the public in Europe as compared to Asia. And if you look at risk perception, the impact of trust has a larger impact in Europe than in Asia and North America. And finally, when it comes to acceptance, however, you can see that trust actually plays a bigger role in impacting public acceptance in Asia as compared to Europe and North America. We also ran moderator analysis for time which is before Fukushima accident and after the Fukushima accident. So over here you can see that both benefit perception and trust actually had a larger impact on public acceptance of nuclear energy after the Fukushima accident. So in summary, what does this tell us and what's the implication? I guess the large body of empirical studies and social science have shown that it is simply insufficient to just provide more information about energy policies in order to raise public awareness of nuclear energy, because science knowledge really just play a very minor role in shaping public attitudes toward nuclear energy. In fact, the larger key factors are really value predispositions and people's personal beliefs. And so when it comes to communicating, we advocate that communication strategies should include strategic media framing to convey messages about nuclear energy. So it's not just about the volume of information, it's also about what kind of information and what are the things to emphasize. So for example, some of the panelists talked about the potential low nuclear costs that the new nuclear reactors might bring, the newer ones. And so the key thing is that how do you communicate this information to the public? Perhaps we could highlight the key advantages that the low cost could bring to individual consumers by simply telling them the message that, hey, look, your monthly utility bill is going to decrease by X amount if we go nuclear. You know, this does not only apply to nuclear, of course, but to other renewable sources of energy as well, if indeed it can actually bring down cost. So it's a way of framing the message so that consumers are ready to accept the new technology. In addition, I think effective public deliberation is necessary and should be implemented to include the public in the decision-making of nuclear energy. And of course, an open and transparent deliberation is key to enhance social trust. As you can see from our findings, trust is important. Trust in key stakeholders is an important factor that shape public attitudes toward nuclear energy. And a good deliberation, an open deliberation is necessary so that the public would think that, you know, the policymakers are sincere in taking their opinions into account when devising the policy for the energy mix. Right? And that's it for my presentation. I look forward to your question. Thank you.